If you've been a part of the online bookish community over the last year or so, you have probably heard the phrase, reading is political. Now, some of you might just flat out disagree with the sentiment, or you may partially agree but concede that it is a matter of subjectivity and that reading is not inherently political. If you are someone with either of these opinions, then I invite you to stay and watch this video with an open mind while I do my best to present my argument that not only is reading political, but it is an objective fact. So there is a specific TikTok that prompted me to make this video, and I'm gonna go ahead and play it for you in a second. But before I do, I want to say that every resource, video, statistic that I use in this video is going to be linked in the description. And I welcome you to check them out for yourself and to do your own research outside of the included links if you are interested in exploring this train of thought further. So let's begin.
Reading is political, is what people say when they're on their moral high horse. Like saying everything you do is religious or everything you do is classist. That's the same sort of people saying that reading is political. I read for pleasure. I read to improve my writing. I read because I have books to read for book club. And I bet the majority of us read simply because it brings us pleasure and adds value to our life, not because of some political superiority complex.
The creator starts off her video by saying that those of us who say that reading is political are coming from a place of moral superiority, which, by the way, is a word that people love to throw around and is oftentimes extremely irrelevant to the discussion at hand. But whatever, right? So she comes from this place of saying that we're coming from a place of moral superiority and that she specifically likes to read in order to improve her writing as well as just for her own personal enjoyment. This argument is flawed for two reasons. The first being that reading as a concept and an activity does not revolve around a single person's feelings about that activity. And the second is that even if it did, our reasons for doing something do not exist in a vacuum. So even if the concept of reading being political was at all related to someone's personal relationship to it, that relationship is still shaped by our personal politics. You'll see in this screenshot here that someone asked the creator for a specific example of a book that was not political, and the example used was Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Yeah. Right. Now, this example is ridiculous for two reasons. The first is that the book itself has major political themes, including the struggle for political power, as well as themes of recognizing that love is a relationship of mutual respect and not one of conquest, which is specifically critiquing patriarchal values and the way that we form relationships within patriarchal systems, which is political, by the way, and extremely ironic considering the allegations against the author himself. Which brings me to my second reason that this example is ridiculous, is that we need to ask ourselves, what does it even mean for something to be political? According to Merriam-Webster, there are a few definitions, including when something is of, relating to, involving, or involved in politics, and especially party politics. According to the PolSci Institute, there are different forms of political power, including economic, social, institutional, and information power, which is why referencing a Neil Gaiman book as a non-political book is absolutely ridiculous. He is someone with both social and information power. Social because he is a well-known author and cultural figure, and information because he has a platform that was built by the publishing institution, giving his voice over other voices access to share his stories and his writing has put him in the position to allegedly abuse his status as a traditionally published author and a big name in the institution of publishing, which is also why the concept of separating the art from the artist while the artist is still alive is completely impossible. Your monetary and or social support of an author is still allowing them to continue perpetuating harm against real people. It's why saying that you don't support authors like J.K. Rowling or Neil Gaiman, but then buying their books or talking about them to an audience in a positive light is still support. You are still supporting these people and the institutions that they are a part of. Now, if you don't care about that and you still want to separate the art from the artist, then that's a totally different discussion, but it is still supporting them. Now, neither of these points fully pertain to my argument that reading is inherently political. It's really only to call attention to the absurdity of the example that this creator used and to create a baseline definition of what it means for something to be political. Because we all got to be on the same page about that if we're going to continue to have this conversation. So let me get to my first real point of the argument. Reading is not an exclusive activity to the Western world. And so to apply our personal relationship to reading from a strictly Western view and understanding would be to completely dismiss the reality of reading and people's access to it globally. If you look at the top 10 countries with the lowest literacy rates, you might notice a trend. Take Afghanistan and Sudan, for example. Can any of you think of anything that is occurring or has occurred in the past few years that would contribute to the low literacy rates in these countries? To dismiss the political reasons why such a significant rate of countries destabilized due to conflict have low literacy rates is ignorant at best and racist in practice. But hey, let's just say we wanted to look at reading from an exclusively American point of view. It's still political. Having access to education is political. When you consider that most Americans who receive an education do so through public schools that are funded by taxpayer dollars, that makes the institution of education itself political. So why is it that literacy rates among adults have dropped from 82% in 2017 to 79% in 2025? A global pandemic and the dismantling of the Department of Education might be a couple of reasons for that. Political ones, of course. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that just the other day, there was a bill proposed at the federal level to ban LGBTQ books from public schools. So let me go ahead and play you videos that explain that a bit more in depth.
Federal government is attempting a ban on all LGBTQ books, especially those with trans characters, and the bill has already been introduced. It is H.R. 7661, which was introduced by Mary Miller, a Republican from Illinois. There are 17 Republicans who have signed on to this bill, and it will change legislation that has existed since 1965, to ban any sexually oriented books. This is a really vague definition, intentionally targeting LGBTQ books, but specifically going after any books that feature a trans character or gender fluidity or any gender identity. On a side note, this bill is also banning any lewd or lascivious dancing, which they think is an attempt to ban drag time story hours at local libraries. This bill, though, is going specifically after school libraries. And if you think that's never going to happen on a federal level, it has already happened on the state level. In Texas, they are going through massive book bannings. The Katy School District has already banned all books featuring trans characters. They have removed 140 books featuring LGBTQ themes, and they have eliminated the review process. So now just 2 school board members can say they want that book removed, and it's pulled. Similarly, Iowa and Idaho also have state book bans that are going through the legal process, and if they pass, they will be a roadmap to then further this nationwide ban on LGBTQ books in schools. So as always, reach out to your local representatives and tell them that we want our kids to be able to have the freedom to read whatever they want. If a parent doesn't want their kid to read that book, they have every right to tell the librarian to not give their kid access to that book, but they don't have the right to take away access from other people's children. Let us parent our own kids. So what do you think about this nationwide ban on books?
In 2024, 72% of proposed book bans came from organizations. That means that there is funding and political motivations behind these book bans. So, do you get it now? Do you get how reading is political? Access to materials, libraries, schools, etc. is political. Your personal reasons for reading are irrelevant. Even the materials that you specifically choose to read are irrelevant. It is the fact that you live in a part of the world where you can receive an education with relative ease. If you live in a city or a town that has public libraries, if you have the money and the resources to buy books, the energy to sit down and read, and the physical ability to do so. This is all political. And to be honest, you have nothing to lose by acknowledging this and everything to gain. If you can recognize this fact, then I hope it inspires you to mobilize to ensure that the people in your community and the children who attend the public schools in your area and the global population at large have access to an education and the freedom to choose what they want to read. Now, if you get in my comments and you say something along the lines of, oh, well, it's not that deep, or that reading isn't political and that's just your opinion, that means nothing to me. Either back up your argument with evidence or concede that your opinion may just be entirely irrelevant to this discussion. Until next time.